All right, are we all in Illustrator? Do we all have Illustrator up and running? So for this, I want you to go ahead and make a new document, and it can be just an 8.5 by 11 document that you show horizontally or landscape. I'm going to have you make 3 artboards because you're going to do ultimately 3 different tiles and patterns. And for this, I'd like you to work in CMYK color mode. And because the idea of thinking about this ultimately being printed. So we're going to start with CMYK color. Okay, so you'll have your three whiteboards. All right, so the first thing, we've been so far in Illustrator using really just the pen tool and the shape tool, and we're going to keep using those 2 tools mainly, along with a couple others that I'm going to introduce. The pen tool is the 3rd tool down, and the pen tool is something that it really takes practice to get to know, but the more we work on it, the more we're going to learn about it. A couple things I like to do. I like to have my rulers on, and to get your rulers on, you're going to use Command R on your keyboard, and that allows the rulers to be turned on and off. And the reason is it's sometimes helpful to go ahead and draw a square on your artboard so you have a feeling of what a square is going to look like. You can take your guides and start. I can also grab the rectangle tool, hold my shift key down and draw a perfect square, and then pull guides from my rulers over so that I can draw myself a perfect square by pulling the guides down. And then once I have my square, I can delete that shape. I just wanted to have a square that I'm looking at. So as I'm designing my tile, because we're ultimately designing what we call a tile for repetition, because we're making a pattern. And so we're going to be working with line art, but we're going to work inside the square. All right, so now I'm going to take my line and I'm going to click with the pen tool. I'm just clicking once and then I'm dragging my hand over. The line is following me. If I hold my shift key down, it gives me a straight line. It won't go, it will only go on a 45-degree or a straight line. I'm going to go ahead and click again, and that gives me my first line. I'm now going to keep my shift key down and I'm moving only on, I can either move 90 degrees or 45. I'm going to move 45 degrees down. And then I'm going to pull it over to my other corner. So there's my first line. Notice how it's still attached. I have to go over here to my selection tool to unhook it from the pen tool. So here's my first line I've created. So the information for this line is up here at the top. I'm in Illustrator. And you know what, I forgot to mention this initially. We want to look at our workspace. I'm in typography. I'm going to keep in typography because it's a workspace I like to work in. So the stroke weight is up here. So you can make it, it's right now 1 point. I can make it 3 point. I can make it 8 point. I can change it to any weight I want. And that's all done up here. Other things I can do with my stroke, and I'm gonna pull up, I'm gonna go to Window, Stroke, because I want to see my stroke palette. And I'm going to pull my stroke palette here. I want you to notice that the ends here right now, you can see are perfectly square. I can choose a rounded end cap. I can keep it where the line ends right at the point. I can have it square, but it extends beyond the point. Or I can have the cap be rounded. And I'm finding those options under Window, Stroke, and that opens up the stroke window. I can also choose a dashed line. I can choose that dashed line and choose it having different intervals. Like I want them to be just barely touching. I can play with that. I can say I want it to be smaller, like little sausages almost. 12. And say I want this one to be 20. Bigger gaps. And then I'd be like, no, I don't want that. So I can play with a dashed line. I can decide I want them to be you can kind of make them any way you want. And I'm putting the numbers in and I'm just hitting tab as I do each number. Oh, hold on, I didn't mean to close the window. Sorry, let me put that back. And then if I don't want the dash line, I just uncheck it and they all go away. So I can have it or uncheck it. Are you all with me on making all those different choices for our line?
No, I got lost in the beginning.
Okay, that's fine. So to start the process is we need to show our tools. Wait a minute, where did my tools go? They just disappeared on me. Let's go to my window and pull them back up again. Okay. So to draw a line, you want to go into the pen tool. Let's just do it one more time together. We're going to grab the pen tool. Did you create a box yet, Jasmine? We're going to, if we want it, we're going to use the shape tool, which we've used in past projects to make a square. Right? And I'm just going to fill it versus having it be outlined. And that's just going to allow me to, oh, here's a change I want to make. I'm going to adjust my guides. If you're not seeing your guides, you can go down to View Guides. Mine are locked, so I'm going to unlock my guide so I can move it over where I want it. And I'm going to go to View Guides, Lock Guides. Make sure your guides are viewed. And then once you have your square drawn with your guides, we're going to take our pen tool and I'm going to just start. I'm going to draw, click, hold my shift key down, move it over. I'm going to come down on holding my shift key down where I can only move it at a 45-degree and over. Now you'll see it's filling. That's because it's the way I'm filling it. So here I can deselect it, and now it's making this weird shape because it's filling the line. I want to go down into this color area and have the outline be solid and there be a red line through the fill. In other words, no fill. And that's in the fill and stroke area. We want to stroke the line, but not fill it. And so the standard default for a stroke is 1 point. That's the default. So if you want to change that, you can make it any size you want here in the stroke window. You can also change the cap. All right, so once we have it where we want it, we want to copy it and repeat it because we're going to be making a tile. Now, You don't have to make a copy, but I'm going to just show you how to do that if you want. You can just select it and you can go up to Object and, I'm sorry, up to Edit and Copy, and up to Edit and Paste. But you're going to want to learn those key commands because it's a common thing we do, which is copy and paste. So the key command is Command C for copy and Command V for paste. And that's a key command you're going to use all the time. So you want to make sure that you start getting used to using the key commands for copy and paste. Okay, so now I'm lining up my dots on my line of my square so that they're all aligning to where I want them. Okay, and then you can play with also the idea of drawing shapes that are, I showed you one that's very symmetrical. So the assignment is to do one that's symmetrical, one that's asymmetrical, and one that's a choice, whatever choice you want. So the symmetrical design is what I'm showing you in the design brief example. I think for this demo, I'm going to do an asymmetrical design. Do we all know the difference of what those two terms mean, symmetrical and asymmetrical? Who can tell me? What do those mean?
If it's symmetrical, it should be even on both sides, same thing on each side. If it's asymmetrical, it's not going to be totally even.
That's right. That's right. It's not even, it's different. And you're going to have something that isn't balanced equally on both sides. All right, so I'm creating a pattern now where I'm bringing in, your pattern needs to include solid lines and solid shapes. So I'm bringing in some solid shapes from using my shape tool. Now remember, our shape tool has these basic shapes: rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star. And you can start there, but there's some tools in Illustrator that can make them even more, have even more different shape options within that by manipulating them. So if I start with the circle, I can go into Object and I can go into trying some different elements with the shape. Actually, I think it's into effects. You know what? It's in effects. Yeah, we're going to go into effects, distort and transform, pucker and bloat. Now, I want you to see how you can change the shape. I'm in I'm going towards bloat, and look how it's turning into like a little flower. If I go to pucker, it becomes kind of like a star shape. These are very like mid-century shapes. They're reminding me of Alexander Gerard. Again, I'm trying to bring my inner Alexander Gerard out. Look at all the different fun shapes we can create using pucker and bloat. All right, so I'm going to use pucker. Say okay for that one. And I'm going to draw my circle and go to Effect, Distort and Transform, pucker and bloat. And for this one, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to pucker. And then I'm going to say okay. So now I feel like these are what I want, but this guy is a little too big. So I'm going to take my corner, and you see how my cursor changes to this way. It changes and allows me to rotate. And if I have the arrows go on a diagonal, it's allowing me to change the scale. Now, if I don't hold my Shift key down, I can distort it. If I hold my Shift key down, it's going to stay proportionately the same. And I want to keep it proportionately the same for what my needs are. But if you want to distort it, just don't hold the shift key down. So those are your options. Okay, so there's that. And so I'm looking at that and I'm looking at this, and now I'm thinking I need some other elements. So I might want to copy. Command C for copy, Command V for paste, and then that's bringing me another one of these in. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and bring a smaller one of these in. I think these are like the little guys on the Subaru logo. Doesn't that remind you of the Subaru logo? Or is it just me? Isn't that kind of like the symbol on the Subaru logo?
Yeah.
Is it just me? Okay. I don't know. I don't drive a Subaru, but I feel like that's what this looks like. And having 3 of them, I think, is what's on the Subaru logo. All right. So, so there's that. And then I can decide, do I want to have some more stripes? Well, I might. So I might copy this again. Now you see what I'm doing, I'm holding, let me show you what I'm doing. Hold on. Undo. I wish I had a little camera on my fingers. Holding the Shift, Option, and Command key down all at the same time. When I do that, I want you to see that 2 little arrows come up when I touch, and it's duplicating as I pull it away. Try that. See if you can get that to work for you. And what I'm going to do is start playing with the width of my lines, because I want to have varying line widths. I'm going to do it again. I'm duplicating. I'm keeping everything aligned on my grid here with my square. Okay, so then I have different line weights within. So it's kind of giving us a sense of dimension. Do you see how that's starting to feel dimensional? Okay, so now these are stroked lines. These are objects made from circles. So for my stroked lines, because let's say I'm at where I want to be, when I'm where I want to be, I'm going to make a copy of the whole thing. So I'm going to take my direct select tool, my selection tool. I'm going to select all my objects, and I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to bring them over here. So I have a copy before I do anything more, because I don't want to lose what I've done. So when we have a section where we like what we're doing, before we go and do anything else, make a copy of it so you can now do some variations, and you're not going to be afraid of losing your original. So I've done this first draft. This is draft 1, draft A. I like it. I'm going to leave it now, and I want to try some other things, but I don't want to lose that, because that might be my final. I don't know. So now I'm going to bring some more guidelines over and build another square. So now I can play with, okay, what do I want to do? Do I like this the way it is? Do I want to see, well, what do I do? Do I want to see this kind of have, maybe that, I don't like how thick that is. Maybe I want to try it a little thinner. So now I'm going to make some edits, trying different line weights. Then maybe here I'm thinking I want to rotate these. Maybe I don't want them all upside down, maybe up and down. Maybe I want to see them on an angle. I want to play with more angles. So I'm going to select it and rotate it, holding my shift key down so they're on a 45-degree angle. And so now I'm going to rearrange my little star things on a 45-degree angle. What does that look like? Same with this guy. I'm going to rotate this guy like that. And I'm going to now add maybe another element. Maybe another element in. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't like that. Maybe I'll do like it more open. Okay, so that's my next variety. So you can keep doing this as many times as you want until you get, so I'm going to take that, copy, paste, copy, and I'm going to bring that over here. And I'm going to just keep exploring, keep trying different arrangements. Maybe this time I think, you know what, I don't want these guys. I'm going to put this aside. Maybe I want to take these and I'm going to copy them, paste them, and rotate my lines. And I'm going to try the newest tool that I learned about at Adobe Max this year called Intertwine and see what that looks like. So let's try that. Let's look at the new tool called Intertwine that Adobe Max introduced. So now here's my new design. And I'm going to make these different colors so that I can see. And I'm just randomly picking colors right now, just so I can see how I'm going to intertwine them. So there's a new tool called Intertwine that you maybe saw if you watched any of the Adobe Max tutorials. And it's called Intertwine. And so I'm going to select my shape, object, intertwine, make. And so you have to select overlapping segments to intertwine. So I'm going to say, okay. So I'm going to say, I want to see that. Oh, I didn't grab all of it. Oh, hold on, undo. Let's try it again. I select everything, object, intertwine. Let's go release, object, intertwine, make. Okay, I'm going to zoom in closer so I can see what I'm doing. So now I'm selecting the places where I want my line to go behind. So I'm thinking about weaving. I want this to feel woven. Look at that, isn't that magic? This is one of the brand new features Adobe released at Adobe Max this year. All right. So I'm intertwining my do this one. Let's see, so that goes there. This one goes under. That goes over. This one goes under. This one goes under. This one goes under. All right, there we are. What do you guys think? Pretty cool, huh? You used to not be able to do that without doing extensive amounts of masking before. So this is a very cool new tool that Adobe has introduced. Okay, so for right now, there's my pattern that I'm thinking of for this one. And I also need some solid shapes still. So I might bring this guy back and look at that. I can put him behind my bars. I can put them in front of my bars. I can decide what I want to do. For right now, I think I'm just going to put it there. I'm going to adjust the scale. I'm just holding my shift key down, adjusting the scale. I'm copy paste my little characters everywhere. And I'm also going to rotate them so that they all feel like they're kind of floating. And I want them to feel very floaty and always in a different orbit. Okay. So these are 3 variations of the same design. Okay, these aren't 3 different designs. These are 3 variations of one design. I'm just trying to decide which one I'm going to do. But let's say I've decided I'm going to see what this one here looks like in a pattern. So let me show you how that works. Once we have it and we want to say, how is this going to look in a pattern? What I'm going to do is select my design, and I'm going to go to Object, Pattern, Make. What? So easy, right? And it tells you right here, this new pattern has been added to the swatches panel. Any changes made while the pattern editing mode will be applied to the swatches upon exit. Okay, so we're still in the pattern design mode. It's not finished. I want to show you a couple things that you can do. So here's the pattern options panel. You can see this one is highlighted. This is the tile. Right now it's automatically putting everything in a grid. You can also change it and have it look like a row, which for this design would probably work better. And you can see it says brick offset. You can make it a third. You can make it a quarter. You can make it 2/3, make it a half. You can say move the tile with the art. You can say 4/5. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can organize this design. Overlap. You can say how you want the artwork to overlap or don't want it to overlap. How many copies you want. Do I want to see the tile edge while we're looking at this? Show the swatch bounds. You can look at brick by column, hex by column, hex by row. Okay, so lots of different ways that this can be configured. There's lots of different ways. And then once you're in here, there's also many different ways that you can size the tile to the art. So you can also adjust the spacing of the tile. So for example, see how my edges, I want them to bleed into each other. Maybe I want to add some spacing. That's adding spacing. -5 reduces spacing. See that? I'm just going to show you both ways. So there is what I'm more closely looking for is I want these lines to overlap. Maybe I don't want any vertical. Maybe I want to get rid of that. No, actually, I think I do want the vertical, but I don't want the horizontal. Maybe I want to get rid of that. No, I guess I want that too. I think I need both. All right, so that's maybe what I want. So I'm going to look at it, say, okay, that looks like what I want. I can zoom out. So that's giving me an idea of what this pattern is going to look like. All right, so then I can name my pattern, pattern. Make sure you label these. They're going to get confusing. Woven, I'm going to call this so I know which one it is. All right, so there's my woven pattern. It's going to, so now I want to get out of this editing mode. In order to do that, I have to go to the hamburger menu and go exit pattern editing mode. Now I'm gone. So you might be asking yourself, well, where did the pattern go? The way patterns work in Illustrator is once I've designed it, I take my shape tool and let's just draw a rectangle or a square rectangle, whatever. You open up the swatches panel. If it's not already open, mine's open, but it's right here. It's swatches panel, mine's open. And you'll see the pattern you just made is in the swatches panel. Oh, sorry, mine is filling the stroke. I don't want that. Make sure it's filling the solid. And I'm going to go into the swatches panel and choose, and you'll see my pattern show up. And so you can fill any shape now indefinitely. Oops, you don't want to stretch it. hold the shift key down. So I can fill any shape with the pattern. I can make a bigger shape. See, any shape I make will now fill my pattern I just made. And then it'll enlarge, if once it's in a shape, it'll enlarge or shrink. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a minute and ask for questions before we move on to the next step. Questions?